Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making me deal with the devil here. You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me?
Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk lamb with you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor. Bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Survivor Oz. You got a new host for this not canceled Ozlet Topsy about season 32, Blood versus oh no, it's Praise versus Robert's because I know the season title. We have quite a full house today of different Ozlets. And going around the room, making their debut on the Ozlet Topsy, we have Cable. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad we didn't get discontinued. Or cancelled, I should say.
Also, on the making their debut, we have Patty G. Patty G, welcome.
Well, thank you, Rossi. I'm glad to be here.
Also making their debut, we have Kristen Knar.
Meow.
Good commentary as always. And we also have last week's host of Colin. Colin, welcome back.
Yeah, my best efforts to get this show canceled were all thrown out the window when Ben promoted the return of Kristen for the second week in a row.
For the first week. It's her debut. Over a year.
Yay.
Well, not just a year, years, he said.
Yeah, years. I mean, you've only been in Ozlet for, what, like a year and a half, but it's been years since you've been on this show.
Well, to be fair, before last week, I was on an episode of Kaoh, so that's how far back it goes. Except for last week.
And the best of 2016, which technically counts.
I was very good on that because Ben purposely chose all of the moments that were completely irrelevant to everything.
I guess we'll start with going over the episode. People's general thoughts, what they thought. Did it get better or worse than last week? Are there people they like more or less? Is it getting more about the strategy or whatever? I guess we'll start with you, Cable.
Yeah, I really liked the episode. I think the awesome meltdown at Tribal Council is such a talking point that I kind of feel bad for the rest of the episode because everyone's, especially from a social media, sort of following that, everyone's talking about that. And look, that's justifiably so. But I think there was a lot of good stuff in the episode. It was entertaining. And I think they were just planting the seeds for the audience. There was a lot of, obviously Liz just having a little bit of an emotional, disconnect with the fire and the water within the Brains tribe with Debbie and Joe. Starting to see a little bit of stuff happening there. And then Beauty tribe having Ty finding the idol and them bonding pretty well, and then obviously Braun having their breakdown. I think, I think it was a really entertaining episode, and I'd hate for people in retrospect to think it was only a good episode because of the final Tribal Council.
Pat, thoughts?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Cable. I really, really enjoyed this episode as well as last week's. The season is off to a really strong start. The thing that really gets me the most was that after last season, which was probably the most strategy-centered season ever, out of this episode in particular, there was really no strategy up until Tribal Council after the challenge. I mean, we had the scene with Ty finding the idol, but besides that, it was pretty much all just camp life and really surviving, which was such a great change. This cast, there's a lot of good characters, and even some of the lesser characters, they're not bad. I mean, I definitely think that if this keeps up, then this is going to be a real pleasant surprise of a season.
Kristen, what do you think?
Yeah, same. I'm really into this season. I think that this was a good follow-up episode to the premiere, where the premiere we kind of just got to know everyone. This episode, they didn't feel the need to push characters on us that weren't really relevant yet. They kind of focused more on certain aspects. Like, we didn't see most of the Beauty tribe at all, but I'm sure we'll see them later. And yeah, I'm sure at least a few of you have looked into some of the stuff that Jenny has said about the edit and everything, but I kind of don't give a shit about what really happened because the edit made brilliant viewing, and I'm really enjoying the editing this season, even though it's apparently causing problems with the cast.
Colin, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting that you brought up the editing, Kristen, because I think this is the second week in a row where the editors are playing with us a bit, and there's been a clear vote to flush out an idol, or just in the risk of there being an idol, to try and flush it out. And they haven't really made that part of the show, which is something that I think is making the show interesting. Unfortunately, I think the downside of that, and this is where the cast probably is getting annoyed, is that it's making a lot of them look really stupid. When you have this majority alliance, particularly on the Bronze Tribe, who are voting separate from each other every week, but yet they're all in an alliance. But I actually am finding it interesting because even though the episode ends and you're pretty sure that, okay, these votes were split because, you know, there was risk of Alicia having an idol because of one thing she said, I'm still wondering, and I'm waiting to tune in after the commercial break to see, well, who voted for who. So if nothing else, I think this season's providing a lot of questions based on the edit. I'm still not completely sold on the cast, though. I think I will be a little bit different from most people on that. I'm not really loving the cast so far, but I think that could just be because we're not seeing a lot of them. But overall, it's been 2 good episodes in a row.
One thing that came up during the Cable mentioned it came up during the episode with the whole like Liz-Joe conflict. And I just keep jumping back to the preview that we got last season about this being one of the toughest seasons ever and how the conditions are awful. And I'm wondering, are we getting these kinds of scenes about, like, Liz got so emotional, and then we saw Aubrey. Yeah, that one. The invisible one, and Liz crying over kind of things that are going on at camp. And I'm wondering, do you think we're getting these scenes as a part of the intensity of the season, or is that just kind of this emphasis on the more environmental social game?
No, I agree with you, Rossi. I think editing. Look, I haven't been on set for 32 seasons at all, but I feel like there's probably every couple of seasons someone's done an Aubrey and had, that anxiety attack or really struggled with the conditions, but we've just never seen it because it's never been important to the season storyline. Whereas this year they've built up the whole Medivacs, and I think, they've really played up on that angle, and even showing Liz again in a previous season. Liz could have done that, and that wouldn't have been even shown. But I think they're definitely, building up, or trying to better show the audience how tough the conditions can be. And I think there's going to be a bit of a storyline maybe with the water, and maybe someone gets medevac because they've maybe drank too much untreated water. Maybe just a thought.
All the theories are coming out, whether or not the water or the sun, all these kinds of elements are kind of coming into play. Jumping to you, Pat, I'm wondering, going off the first question, and then do you like this direction that it's been going in, the more camp life and more environmental as opposed to the strategic?
I definitely like that we're seeing a lot more of that, especially after, like I said, after Cambodia, where there was really, they tried to put in a little bit of that, but it still really didn't feel like it was more than strategy. But honestly, I don't think they showed enough strategy, because you head into tribal council and you think, all 3 tribes, what's going to happen if any of these 3 tribes lose? I do like how they're putting more of an emphasis on more of the social and the environment, because they are trying to hype up the medevacs and the toughness of the season. But I honestly think there should be a little bit more strategy. There definitely is a happy medium that they can find.
Kristen, just say something.
Like, relevant to the question?
Yes.
Say something about Caleb.
No. I actually...
too early.
Yeah, it's a little early for that. I wanted to add to what Cable was talking about I know that we talked last week a little bit about whether this was foreshadowing how bad the season was going to be with Aubrey's panic attack and the earbug and everything. And I think that it's been made more clear with this episode, because I actually thought it was a little bit crazy that we were watching somebody crying about not having water because they didn't have enough propane to make a fire. And it's like, oh, we don't have propane in matches, so we can't have water. Like, in what season are we shown people complaining because they don't have enough propane to boil water from? Like, I thought that was mind-blowing that that was even a thing, because I know that it's humid, I know that it's hot, it's probably hard to make fire, but fucking Alicia made fire. So, like, let's be real here, they can make fire. So
she made an embryo of fire.
Yeah.
So I just think it's definitely being shown for that, like, to make that point of it being a difficult season, because I can't imagine us seeing, like, oh, we don't have matches or propane, so we can't have water being, like, a storyline of any other season. So, kerosene, I don't fucking know. Sorry, I don't know my flammable liquids. Sorry, everybody.
Just gonna jump to you, Colin, just to touch on that, but going off of kind of what Krista was going to lead into my next point about Alicia and looking at these different camp life scenarios, because we had, in the camp life scenes, we had two that were heavily based on the environment, and then we had the beauty, which was idol heavy. So, like, where do you think this, like, navigation between the social and the strategic is going?
This is kind of becoming one of those hard seasons to predict. I think partly, like I said earlier, they're hiding gameplay for some reason, maybe just to confuse the audience. But even if we look at the whole survival part and, the freakouts and the kerosene and all that, I mean, I think just in modern Survivor, we've become so used to when you see something that's not regular gameplay talk, it has to be foreshadowing something, that we are just assuming that. And more than anything, maybe this is just kind of getting back to the basics of, well, let's show some survival stuff. But I didn't really notice the difference in the tribes until you mentioned it there, that, one tribe was all idle stuff and another one all survival stuff and everything. But I think that the story arcs are getting hard to predict too. I mean, we're going to obviously get to Jenny a little bit later on, but Jenny's a good example of somebody who we thought this foreshadowing last week that, it was the physical game that was going to beat her down, and it turned out it was a social thing, or, a little bit of a mental thing that broke her down. Alicia, the exact opposite. I mean, we were kind of led to believe last week that she was weak and she wouldn't be able to do this, and then this week the whole thing with the fire came up. I'm honestly starting to think that they're intentionally trying to confuse the audience and play against all the things that we're used to with the edits of Survivor. I mean, how many podcasts has everybody listened to where they're talking about, well, this is based on the edit, this is what we think, and I'm kind of liking the fact that maybe the edits can't lead us to predict anything anymore.
That's very true, because Alicia had a definitely different week from her last week. Still not super genius mental giant that she said she was, but...
But, I mean, at this, like, I don't think she had to be the mental giant, because even last week, there was probably more question put on her physical game, based on all the brawn saying, well, how's she a brawn? And I think this week they're definitely talking again about how there's no mental game, but going off of last week where the question was, can she physically, do it? And this week everybody's lounging around and napping, and she's working 5 hours on a fire.
What I wanted to just touch on real quick was, did you guys happen to see some article or something about Debbie falsifying or not misreading the water?
Yeah.
I just thought that was really funny.
TMZ is like picking up on it right now, even though it's from 6 years ago, but 3 felony charges, pretty big.
Yes, it's been big on social media, because I think a few former survivors have come out and said, hang on, if you've got a felony charge or you've been in trouble before, you can't actually do the show. So they're like, well, who the hell was doing the background checks on these people? I think is one of the things that's come up.
I didn't even think of that. So was she? So was she charged? Like,
I didn't read in depth. I just know. I think Twyla was one that posted, and I think a few other. I know there was other survivors that said, "What the hell?" I think maybe Corinne might have. Like, once, obviously, we just found out. Like, people have posted this article, and it's been up on Facebook pages and stuff like that. People are like questioning. Well, hang on. You're supposed to obviously meet strict criteria to even get on the show. How did she get on if she's got these charges against, or previously, on her record. Not too sure what she has on that record. I didn't read the article. I don't care.
Yeah.
She's on the show that's been done.
I mean, it looks like it was basically, she had she pled guilty to a few charges. She had a year's worth of probation. It's been years since then. The bigger question I have is, this is obviously water related, and her speeches this week were very water heavy. Did this story leak before or after the episode aired? Because I thought it was just today, wasn't it?
I didn't see anything before the episode. The first I saw it was today.
I know that it was discovered before that because when I saw it was on TMZ, and so I decided to do a little bit of searching about it because it was 6 years ago, and I found, I guess on Sucks, they do threads on each person, and somebody posted in May 2015 a link to her legal troubles because I guess everyone starts researching them. So it wasn't like super out in the Survivor community, but people knew about it. It wasn't completely hidden until right now. So I guess just bigger media outlets are picking up on it, so more people are seeing it.
I feel like it adds something to the season in a weird way.
Well,
it
definitely adds
character.
Yeah, it adds something to her opinions on water. what's drinkable or not.
And I also came across... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, well, look, let's be honest. She's got an immune system like a horse, so she can do anything. She's probably been drinking from the horse trough.
I like Debbie.
I was just going to say, I came across Ethan had tweeted, and he was talking about Rudy in All Stars, talking about how he would just drink the water. Said he's had worse, with dead bodies floating in the water and everything.
Well, that's actually what I thought of. Like I was saying earlier, we're just sort of led to believe that if we have scenes like this, it's going to lead to something. And maybe Debbie will be medevaced for, a parasite or something like that, and maybe Liz will be medevaced for, I don't know, whatever itch is bothering her or something else like that. But let's go back to even All Stars, and that was kind of the birth of the strategic era of Survivor, and I guess the modern edit. And it wasn't really surprising at the time if you had a scene with, Rudy doing something stupid. It was just sort of like not looked on. That was just another scene. It was a scene to build character, which is, I think, kind of just what Debbie's scenes are about at this point.
Not too much left on the Brain Tribe because they were pretty much focused on the water.
Well, there
was there?
Meow. Come on.
Oh, true. So wait, let's just. All right, quick question: how many cats does Debbie have? Go.
40.
I guess according to Peter, it's 40.
No more, no less. She doesn't have
There's
one.
nothing wrong with having 40 cats.
Oh, Kristen, how many cats does Kristen have? Is the question.
I don't have any cats, but I want one.
But the other question with those 40 cats, does she drink from their water?
Yeah, I wasn't sure who was going to go there, but we should have known it was going to be Cable.
But the one thing are these hashtags just not horrifyingly bad?
They're amazing.
Oh my god! Could you imagine in season 1 in Borneo if Greg is like, oh look, a flying fish, hashtag flying fish, or when Ted is grinding Gandhi, a hashtag grind game, that is terrible. These are so terrible. Oh god.
Stolen sexual assault.
Yeah, Sue Hawk and Richard had violated, humiliated, dehumanized. Hashtag it. Hashtag anything.
We really should just have a project where we go back to classic scenes of Survivor and create the hashtags for them.
Oh,
You didn't like Meow though? Come on.
It's not like he even said meow. He was talking about cats.
It was so funny.
It's just random. It doesn't even have anything to do with. It's not like they even said it.
Cat said it.
Well,
I don't know. I'm gonna put it down as the worst hashtag since probably hashtag Big Bad Wolf from what was it, Blood versus Water.
I think any hashtag Rodney had was awful. That's what I'll put down.
Yes,
first.
for people that watched that season, they were definitely really terrible. So.
I wish
people that watched.
I envy you. I wish I hadn't have.
Hashtag Rodney Bull for life. Come on.
Yep.
Let's not get there. That season should be, push it aside.
No, I was just going to say too, with the Brains Tribe, they obviously haven't gone to Tribal yet, so, they're slightly building up the potential fracture. But I actually was surprised for someone that's so, life experience like Joe, and seems to have had some pretty decent jobs with experience. Why the hell did he douse that kerosene all over? Like, it was blowing my mind, and I don't blame Liz for getting upset, because it's like, where they were, it wasn't like it was wet. They could have just done the fire the old-fashioned way, or just a tiny little bit of kerosene, get the fire started. I'm like, I don't know, that just shocked me at how inept he was, or how they just took for granted that kerosene bottle. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that there's two people in the Survivor fan world. There's those who get annoyed at the dumb things that old people do, and there's those who find it endearing. And I'm the kind who, when BB washes his shirt and drinking water, I'm like, that's my kind of guy. So I kind of like Joe, even though he did that.
Joe isn't quite at BB level, but he's kind of a grump, I dig it.
Yeah, a fun grump, though. I don't know.
Hashtag that. Fun grump.
Yeah, hashtag fun grump.
Oh, that's gotta happen.
Roar. Hashtag roar.
Hashtag propane problem.
Yeah.
Or hashtag pathogens my butt.
This tribe is a mess. This is probably the worst. Like, I think it's the biggest mess of a tribe. Like, I think Braun has their stuff together, I feel like, in comparison to these guys. They're all over the place, I feel like.
Well, like, on that note, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm kind of, because we're doing the power rankings, I'm paying very close attention to not just, who had a good week, but whose tribes are potentially doing the right things, even though we're not seeing them. And I feel like because we're not seeing a lot of, say, the beauty tribe, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they're doing something right. With the brains, it's interesting because they are a complete mess, and I would have no idea what would happen if they ever went to a tribal. Whereas the bronze tribe, I mean, they may never win a challenge the way things are going, but I think if they keep losing, they're going to know what they're doing from one vote to the next, and I don't think that it's going to go that way with the brains. I mean, is that basically what you're thinking?
Yeah, it just seems like kind of similar to the first season. The first brains, brawn, beauty thing, everyone's kind of got their own, like, ways of thinking, and they're all doing these different things, and everyone's prioritizing different things at Camp Life. People are emphasizing, Peter's, like, on strategy, and Debbie's on water duty, and Joe doesn't know what's going on. Like, I feel like they're all scattered.
Liz is on thirsty duty.
And the Meltdown girl's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a mess. So it'd be interesting to see what happens when they go to tribal, if they go to tribal. Because probably a swap will happen before that happens. But, okay, we got to get to it. The beauty tribe and the bromance. Hashtag stolen kiss. Is this going to be an alliance, or is this just going to be one of those, like, red herrings Camp Life scenes that just goes away after a few episodes or whatever? Cable, what do you say?
Oh, look, it's only early days, but I feel like, we've seen a bit of all the tribes, and you see that Braun aren't all on the same page. Obviously lost 2 members now, and you got, like, we've just discussed, brains. Well, they haven't been defeated. There's obviously fractures in that group, and then you come to the beauty tribe, and it's all, like, it just all seems to fit together nicely, and they all seem to be getting along. And Caleb seems to be that focal point that he sits down and everyone's sitting around him, and there's the flirting between him and, or more so from Ty. But I don't know, the beauty tribe just seem more likable. It just seems like they got their shit together. But having said that, I mean, it only takes them to go to the tribal council once, and things can sort of change pretty quickly.
Pat, do you think this will be a good alliance?
I definitely think they're working together. Out of the 3 tribes, I really wanted Beauty to lose and go to tribal council because, as you said, the brains are a mess. Braun is clearly a mess. Beauty is pretty perfect. I think it really would have been interesting to see if they have to go to tribal council. What would happen? Because it really seems like, except for Nick and Anna, who didn't exist this episode, I mean, they all really seem like they're getting along really well, and like I said, I really just want to see something happen.
Just jumping to you, Kristen, and adding on to that, do you think that, similar to the tribes, like we've seen the changes happen, but we never really saw the change in beauty? Like, Alicia's status went up a bit, and Liz's status went down a bit, but do you think Ty went up? Where's the hierarchy in this tribe?
I don't think we're seeing that much of them because it doesn't really matter right now. So it's kind of hard to tell. Like, I know that Anna and Nick had the least airtime, but we didn't really see much from Julia or Michelle either. So I think that we don't know. It's going to be the episode where they eventually go to tribal, where we're finally going to see where how the hierarchy is, because I think Nick is kind of at the bottom right now, just because Ty and Caleb seem to be getting along, but I don't see that really translating. I think it's more going to just be, we're not seeing the women because we're going to see them more later and they're going to go deeper in the game. I don't know if that answered the question, but...
Colin, what do you think?
Well, before I even get to my answer, I'm just going to say that as I was watching this the other night, Jamie made me rewind and freeze frame because she noticed a full-fledged boner sticking out of Ty's shorts right after the kissing scene. And it is very visible if anybody wants to go back over and look at it. Kind of funny.
Oh, no. Not really. Hashtag
Chub, yeah. Callback season 31. No, but I mean, I've kind of been saying that I don't think there's as much foreshadowing going on, but this is one area, the Ty and Caleb thing, where I think it is complete foreshadowing. I mean, we had this thing
that they're going to bang?
Okay, well, banging jokes, chubby jokes, I don't know. We're no rules here on the Ozlet Topsy. Remember that. Yeah, Ty, okay. So Ty... last week was sort of the guy in the middle between this possible guys alliance, possible girls alliance. And that's all we really saw. Hashtag meow.
Just ignore me. Keep going.
But this week we didn't really have anything with that. What we did have was Ty searching for the Xyla again. So when we have some type of story thread being told 2 weeks in a row that it is a setup, and we have this idol search 2 weeks in a row, he's willing to rip these trees out of the ground. He's willing to scrape up his legs and his, boner or whatever it is while he's humping this tree. And in the end, all we really came down to was that he can't find this idol on his own. It was very clearly stressed he can't. Then we have all these scenes with him and Caleb's the strong guy. I honestly believe that this was the foreshadowing that Ty will have to bring somebody in to help him find the idol, and that person will be Caleb. So I think this is a complete setup, and I wouldn't have thought either of them would have made it far a few weeks ago, but at this point I think that they both are in this for the long haul.
You think Douche Mode Cowboy can climb up that tree?
Well, he can climb up it more than, I don't know, any of the other people on that tribe. Who else is going to climb it?
Well, I'm not saying anybody else can, but you think he can get up that tree?
Better than Ty? I mean, if you're Ty, who are you going to ask? You going to ask Julia?
I don't know. They need to make a human pyramid or some shit.
If Ozzy can do it, anyone can do it, apparently.
I think that's
well, if Debbie
not
can do
accurate
it.
at all.
No, yeah, if Ozzy can, anybody can. But if Debbie can't do it, that doesn't mean anybody can.
I'm
so
sure
we have
she
to
was
wait
a
and
tree
see
climber in her days, Debbie.
Yeah.
That's her other job.
One of her 40 jobs is to climb trees with her caps. Just quick round thoughts, quick fire question here. Do you guys like this idol twist? I don't even know what's a twist, but the fact that the idol's there, but you can't get to it because you need the key. Do you guys like this? Is it stupid? Cable?
My initial gut feel when I watched it was, it seems ridiculous that it's so high. But I thought there must be some other catch to it. I went back and rewatched the episode anyway, but then I screen captured the note when he read it, and it doesn't say the idol's actually up there, which I think a lot of people are confusing. There's a key to the idol up there that he needs to get. So I think everyone's like, oh, this is unfair. I guess the trick is getting the key, but then maybe there's another clue out there that maybe there's another key. Who knows? That might be one of these other twists where the idol can be obtained in a number of ways, and this is just one of the harder ones. Or alternatively, they want people to share the idol. So, like you said, sort of like what's his name? Oh, Ty knows the clue. Now he's gonna need someone to help him, so he might go to Caleb instead of maybe keeping the idol to himself like Jeremy and Kelly did last season, even though that was shot afterwards. Maybe the producers want them to sort of negotiate with their tribe mates and see who they can bring in to have a team effort at trying to get the idol by making it difficult to obtain.
Pat, thoughts?
I mean, I like the fact that it's difficult to find, and they're bringing in the element of possibly having to share it with someone. But the fact that there was like 2 different notes, like the idol is under the tree, the idol is up the tree, like the note's probably gonna say the idol is under the tree, like that's just a little unnecessary. But I do like the fact that they're making it really difficult.
I really like it because I've been getting really sick of people just like wandering and happening to walk up to an idol that's just sitting in a tree. This is more like, it reminded me a little bit of, was it Fans vs. Favorites, where it was at Exile Island that Ozzy had to go like back and forth across the water and climbing shit. And am I on the right season?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It reminded me a little bit of that. I know that there wasn't the same type of tree climbing for that, but I really like that better. Like, I feel like you need to fight for an idol and not just happen to find a random hole in a tree. Like, imagine early Samoa Wait Russell Hands trying to climb up that tree. This would have been amazing, having this twist in that season. So I just think it adds something, and I like an idol being difficult to find.
So you didn't enjoy in Redemption Island when Ralph just was walking in the idol, like popped out of the ground?
When a crew member handed him the idol.
I found a hand immunity.
I guess jumping to you, Colin, I should have asked this probably earlier, but this versus the in-challenge hunt for the idol?
Why don't you ask me about that?
Oh, I wonder why I didn't ask you, Kristen.
Well, I actually was thinking that in a perfect world, you combine the two of these, and I think you have a perfect season, because everybody complained for the longest time idols are getting too easy to find, and I almost thought that's what was going to happen here. I mean, when this started out and he found it, and it's like the idol is buried at this, below this tree. It basically, I was thinking, was a note saying, "Look down. There's your idol. 2 feet below, where your head is. This is the idol." But throwing the twist in there of having him climb the tree, it's nice. And I think both this and the hidden in the challenge are meant again to surprise the players and keep them on their feet so it's not so easy, and also just keep the audience interested. The only thing that didn't work last year was, I think, the idea of finding the challenge was brilliant, but everybody was going to go for it, and there was always going to be an opportunity. But I think if you combine these two, if you make it where, not necessarily in the middle of a challenge, you get a note saying, you must climb this tree, and you basically have to abandon your challenge in the water. You're, sorry, I gotta walk away from the puzzle for a second and go think in that tree. But even if you find the clue, and then you have to go up in the tree, and then the tree says, well, there's an idol. Just as many steps as possible. If we can get back to it taking 2 or 3 weeks for people to find an idol, then we'll have the perfect season with idols in play.
I mean, it also, these multi-step idol hunts, I guess you could say, eliminates the emphasis on strategy, I guess, in essence, because we're not, besides Ty, we're really not getting anyone hunting for the idol, like digging for clues and this and that. We're not getting all that strategy talk about splitting boats and all that.
Wait a second. Unless Alicia really did find an idol in episode 1.
She climbed the tree faster than Ty. I give her credit.
But do you think, though, even though I get what we're all saying, and I do like the fact that, we don't want to see people just rock up to an old stump in the ground and go, oh, there's an idol in there or whatever. We want to feel like it's a bit of a challenge, but don't you feel that it potentially puts certain players, if they did find the clue, at a disadvantage? Because clearly, I know for a fact I can do certain tree climbing, but that's straight up. There's no chance I would ever get to that idol. So, do you feel that can advantage and disadvantage too many players? Like it's not fair?
I guess it depends on the season. Because I feel like they're doing it per tribe. Like there's different. Like maybe the bronze have to do something really physical to get it or something. I don't know.
if it's difficult for Ty, then, it's probably difficult for somebody else. So is that really having everybody on an even playing field? I don't know. But I think the way it played out, I agree with Cable that it probably isn't necessarily fair, but the way it played out in this episode, the fact that I think it's opening the door where you have to bring a second person in, and it's not just as easy to find an idol and just keep it in your back pocket the whole time. I like the way it's turned out in the season. I just don't think that was their intention the way they planned it.
Honestly, though, with this cast, who in this cast could easily get that idol? Anyone?
Scott Pollard just stands there and reaches.
Yeah.
I still think it's taller than that. So
Scott throws a coconut up there and he can nail that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Couldn't they just chop the tree down?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Ty would never let them do that, that's the only problem.
Just my point is, there are no Aussies on this season that have the immense advantage to getting the idol. I feel like if there were a couple people like that, it would be a lot less fair, but since there's nobody that is like that, it's kind of just everyone's on this confusing playing field.
I just want to say, when you said Aussie, I thought you were saying Australians, and that was a shot at Cable. It was I might be able to climb the tree. Well, not all of us are like Cable who can climb a tree. But I get Aussie, the player.
Yeah, the one that has been on the show 3 times that Ty talked about when he was talking to himself.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes.
But to a point, I feel like this is just, I guess what Cable was trying to get at, it kind of seems unfair in general. I don't know. There's no one who has a certain advantage, but no one has a certain... I just feel like it's too unfair that, in the treetops, and you won't be able to see it unless he had that obvious clue that told him to look up. It just feels really unfair.
The idol is definitely by far on the ground.
I was just about to say that.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on. If anyone has any last thoughts on Beauty.
But how much is Caleb like JT?
Nothing.
Not.
Nah. He's the old country boy.
JT wasn't a mega douche.
But when has Caleb been a mega douche so far?
He calls himself Beast Mode Cowboy.
No, but that's Big Brother. That's Big Brother. He hasn't called himself that.
He has a fucking massive belt buckle that says BMC. Shut up. Backflips off every fucking thing he can backflip off of. Did you see his tuck and roll during the challenge?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's embarrassing. My mom was like, maybe it's because he was in the military. I'm like, every fucking person on this season's been in the military. He ain't tucking and rolling everywhere. Shut up.
I don't think Jason's going to be tucking and rolling.
That would be funny. Okay. Calm down. I'm good.
I was going to say, well, we only saw Beauty when it came to Ty Train, obviously going for the idol, and then again later when the stolen kiss. They were the only 2 scenes we saw them apart from the challenge, so there wasn't a lot, going on. But I don't know.
Just bonus idols.
Well, going back to what you were sort of alluding to a bit earlier, I sort of feel like they are setting us up either for a tight alliance between Ty and Caleb. And maybe Nick might be on the outs in regards to that if Caleb wants to protect Ty or they have to go for the idol.
All right, I guess we're going to move on to the bronze or the not-so-bronze because they can't win anything. I guess Jenny is the real big talking point. She just messed up royally.
Oh, what can you say? I mean, what the hell was her standing up on a tribal council? What the hell was that? That was the most lame, pathetic kind of... I don't know. She just dug a hole and she kept digging deeper. Do you guys watch Friends?
I have seen it at...
Oh, it just reminded me when Chandler says to Joey, dig up, dig up, dig up! It was like she was just digging deeper and deeper, and I still don't know why Scott voted for Alicia. He should have just swapped his vote no matter what.
He tweeted about it.
Yeah, he obviously made a pact with her on alliance that he would never vote for her, but still, I think he put a lot of trust in her, and she was thinking about doing something else. And
I think he knew his vote didn't matter, and he didn't look shocked. So I think he knew exactly what was happening, and he was just trying to keep his promise, which a lot of people do that, and I don't think it's going to backfire on him at all.
No. Well, she's not on the jury or anything like that, so...
Yeah. No, but I mean, even with, like, Jason or anything. Like, you voted for Alicia, even though we were obviously swapping our votes. So I think that they're going to understand that he was close with Jenny, and he just wanted to give her an extra vote, so it wasn't unanimous.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying earlier, how, you know, even though I think the Brains tribe may be unlikely to lose any challenges, but as soon as they do have to go to a vote, it's just going to be a mess. The Brawn, I mean, when you have those three, Scott, Jason, and Sydney, they seem to all be on the same page where it doesn't matter, you know, whatever Scott's doing with his vote. As far as Jenny goes, yeah, I mean, it was complete self-destruction, and probably one of the quickest self-destructions I've ever seen, and also one of the most unfortunate, I think, because I think she had real promise in the game, and really her mistake, it wasn't something as dumb as stick to the plan, and it wasn't something as dumb as, like, the paranoia of Jamie Newton. It was just the wrong comment at the wrong moment with the wrong people waiting to jump on it, you know? And I think that the bigger mistake she made, other than that comment, was trying to throw it on to Alicia. Because the one thing I noticed was that if she had thrown, let's say she'd thrown this on anybody else in any other season, she's like, well, they were talking to me about the alliance, they approached me. Well, that other person's going to argue, and they probably would have sided with their ally Jenny. But everybody knows, and this isn't a knock against Alicia, but everybody knows she's not the brightest person out there. So for her to be that believable in lying, saying it wasn't me, like, it's just not going to happen. So I think where she really dug her grave was trying to throw it onto Alicia, because Alicia would never be that convincing of a liar, so nobody was ever going to believe this. It was a bad move to try to do this. I understand why she did it. I mean, it was the same thing why she stood up, you know, and started freaking out. It's just the last-ditch effort. You already know you've buried yourself, but it's just sad because I think that there was real promise with her.
Do we want to talk at all about Jenny's post-boot interviews and stuff?
Go for it.
Well, first of all, she's bitter as fuck, and it's obnoxious to read about. But, like, I don't know. Has everyone here read about all that stuff? Or at least listened to something? Okay.
I did see a line where apparently yep.
Just for anyone who hasn't seen anything, I've read a few interviews. I listened to her interview with Rob. She said that Alicia actually came to the girls for the All Girls Alliance, and she was like, yeah, sure, okay, like, let's do that. Are you in or you in? And they all kind of agreed to it. And then she realized when she got back to camp after that Alicia and Sydney had both gone to Scott and Jason and told them that she was flipping with them. And apparently I don't know how she didn't, like, just tell them that she was trying to comfort Alicia or something for going home. Like, that seems odd to me, but she claims that the vote was already set, that they were already flipping on her, Sydney and Jason, before they even went to tribal.
Yeah.
That's Jenny's claim.
Well, I was going to say, it makes sense because it felt like there was something that Jason said early in that tribal council where he kind of knew something, and then when she said it was up in the air, then that confirmed it for him. So for me, I didn't think it was Alicia. I thought Sydney must have told him the potential plan. But I agree with you. I think if she really thinks I've got to lie about this or get out of this and say, I was just making Alicia feel good, she should have told Scott, look, I've just thrown this out to Alicia, make her feel good. She's blindsided tonight. We're all sweet, whatever. But yeah, I didn't read any articles, but I'd heard a whisper too. She wasn't happy with Jeff Probst, the way he questioned them at tribal, that it kind of put her in that position where she did say too much. But who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, no matter how much she says that she said too much, she's also claiming that they already were voting her out. So it's like, I don't know, it seems a little bit like she's on two different sides of the same story that don't make, I don't know, it doesn't coincide with some of her other comments. So I'm a little bit confused with what actually happened, but I appreciate the edit, and I think they did a good job, even if it's not the right story. I think that it was a damn good story they tried to tell.
But have any of you rewatched the episode?
No, I mean...
I rewatched like half of it.
Yeah, so I went back because I wasn't too sure like who actually came up with the plan. And if you watch it back again when they're carrying the log and Jenny starts a conversation with Alicia and she's like, what have you got to do? And she's like, oh, be honest. And, you know, what are the main things in this game? And she says, be honest. And she's like, no. And she's I'll win a challenge. And no. And then but the thing is, Jenny doesn't say we've got to get one of the guys out, but she's trying to lead and direct Alicia down that path. And then it's Alicia, the light bulb goes off, and she goes, "Oh, make a big move and get one of the guys." And then Jenny rolls with it. So like Jenny didn't tell her outright to do it, but Jenny was putting her on that path. So it's like I actually kind of think they're both at fault, but then. You know what I mean? Like, I think Jenny tried to say, no, you came up with the plan. It's like, well, Alicia did say the words, but you were trying to get her there. You were helping her there to plant that seed in her mind and say this is an option for this all-girls alliance. So, I don't know. I think if Jennifer's kind of saying, oh, no, it was all Alicia's plan and rah, I think you're giving her too much credit because I don't think... Yep. And again, she was scrambling. She was fighting for her life. Of course she's going to try and do something. I just think it's... I don't know. It was an epic meltdown, like Kristen said. I mean, it was whether it was edited to make it look really bad or whatever. It was great television.
Mm-hmm. You kind of touched on something I was going to say with you said that, like it's kind of like they're both to blame, but you can't even say Alicia's to blame for anything because Alicia was the one on the outs, and Alicia should be doing anything to get anything to happen that doesn't get her out. So. Like she can't be to blame because she wasn't in an alliance with Scott or Jason. So like Jenny is the one responsible for even, I mean, of course you want to say like, yeah, sure, I'll go along with whatever you're doing. But like, I feel like she can't blame that on Alicia.
I do see like what you're saying, Cable, that from her perspective, she's kind of making it, well, Alicia said this, but again, it's very much twisting it around. I just thought this episode was so interesting, and I agree with Cable that it was great television because when I didn't get to see this the night that it aired, I had to wait until 24 hours later to watch it, and unfortunately it had been spoiled, you know, basically by Jenny herself, one of her posts about, oh, it's so emotional, it's so tough to leave this early and everything. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I tried to avoid the spoilers, but there it is. But it actually made the episode more interesting for me because watching this episode, you can know who's going home, as I did, and still, it just makes no sense to you until that very moment where they vote. Because even when she started proposing, I mean, they get back from the challenge, I'm like, there's no seeds planted that Jenny's going home here. And they get back from the challenge, and when she said that to Alicia, I'm like, okay, well, I can see that maybe she's trying to turn, but they're sitting at Tribal, and there's still no indication she's going. I think this can go down as one of those blind sides of the audience that we've talked about in past episodes.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make that I hadn't thought of until just now, but normally we have, like, our boot and our decoy boot, and going into Tribal, Jason was the decoy boot. Or Alicia, Jason, they were both decoy boots, but we only had them as options going into Tribal. Like, normally we have the person that's getting booted and somebody else as the two people everyone's talking about. And I do think it's really interesting that her name didn't come up till Tribal. And I don't think that happens very often. Like, sometimes we'll be shocked by which person they choose to send home, but usually it's at least mentioned earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
Patrick, talk on Alicia.
What, Alicia? Well, I mean, she's my pony, so... I was
lucky.
I was forking in the first boot money last week. I as soon as the challenge was over, I'm like, yes. But man, she is just like, she's a little bit ditzy, and it's like if I had to compare her to another player, it would be Kat. I wouldn't go that far though, but I don't really have a strong opinion on her. A lot of people like really love her. I don't necessarily see that. I don't hate her. Really, on the Braun, the one I really don't like is Jason. I mean, he must be one of the most arrogant people in the history of the show. There have been so many arrogant people, but it feels like what he says are just so irrelevant and out of the blue. And like the way he goes up and he took credit for her trying to make fire for 3 days or however long that was.
That was such bullshit.
And that really
I
just
think
made
that was a joke on his part too. But yeah,
I don't
still,
think
but you
it
don't,
was.
still
yeah, you
arrogant.
don't know. You can't tell that's the thing with him. He is
Yeah.
that arrogant that you really wouldn't put that past him. And it just seems like he's doing it just to put other people down. He's just really just unpleasant. I don't like him at all. Really, he's really the only person on the cast that I just don't like, especially the way he treats Alicia. I know Ben and Noah mentioned this on the Oztopsy that, you know, a tribe swap's going to happen, and if Alicia's on the same tribe with him or Scott, they're as good as done.
I know. I was going to say I like Jason. He was my early sort of pick to win in episode 1, but I could see the switch. How, as soon as Jen sort of said, "Oh, you know, I might flip this up because Jason's starting to piss me off," and they showed all the unlikable things that Jason does, it was just this massive like. Yeah, it's true. He's kind of like a bully to Alicia. He calls her blonde. He gives her no respect. You know, his skin's dropping in the pot. He's burping and he's obnoxious and like you said, he's arrogant. And it's just funny how they quickly. There might have been touches of it in the rest of the episode. And the first one I maybe didn't pick up on it, but it wasn't until that moment where they had to sort of show this little montage of Jason being a pain in the ass. And you go, oh yeah, maybe he is a bit of a jerk. Yeah, and I agree. I can understand why the female alliance probably came about because, you know, there's this young girl, whether she's good enough for the tribe or not, the fact that Jason's given her no respect at all and just puts her down all the time, Jen probably like, you know what, if you're going to put us down, we'll flip it on you and send you packing. So
I don't think Sydney was flipping one way or the other. Even if they tried for a female alliance, I don't think Sydney would have done that. She seemed pretty comfortable with Scott and Jason.
Yeah.
It brings up the question about the season being so more emphasis on these, like the social and environmental, because normally we don't get people like, oh, I don't like them, but I'm in an alliance with them, so I'm going to deal with it. We got Jenny to the point where she's like, I'm going to flip on my alliance because I don't like them anymore. And that's something that doesn't really come up in Survivor much anymore because it's alliance over likability, and this kind of flipped it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week, too, about how this season is almost shaping up differently, that people are leaning towards voting people out for reasons other than just numbers. I mean, other than, you know, maybe a person like, I think it was Peter who was talking about, you know, how the goats basically was what he was talking about. But last week it came down to, well, this is the guy who sucked in the challenge, and, you know, this week, like you were saying, it's not necessarily just as clean cut as you know, what's good for our numbers. It's, well, I don't like this person, and it's another thing I think that's kind of bringing it back to being a more old school season. Obviously,
there's a bit of a fan base for Alicia, and first episode, yeah, I wasn't really either way. I wasn't too fussed with her, but this episode, I was just going to say her whole underdog thing, and okay, yeah, she might be a bit ditzy, but I actually found her really likable and you're wanting to go for her. But the one thing I thought was a bit unfair, like, look, she said, I'm going to try and get fired. No one else helped her. She finally got it. Yeah, it took 5 hours, but why did they have to have elapsed time? Like, I know they're putting in context, but they don't do that to everyone in every season. I just think that's like picking. I think that's like picking on someone. So you're trying to make out.
They've been doing that this whole season, or these first 2 episodes. They've been doing that with her. They've been showing every moment of stupidity from her.
But I don't know if I perceive that one as stupidity. I thought that moment was more showing like, hey, she really can do this. She can do things people don't expect. But the time lapse even then is still interesting, because are you using that to show, well, look at how determined she is when so many people give up, when in actuality, every season that's happened, whenever somebody gets fired, they're probably out there for 7-8 hours doing it, and they just chose this one time to really stress. It took her a long time, and she really stuck with it.
I took it as making fun of her. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion on that.
Well, I wasn't too sure. I was a bit like, are they... Firstly, they're showing that, look, she didn't give up, so it's a great thing, but are you sort of kind of... Because to me, the only other time they show elapsed time is in a challenge, or at at tribal council when there's the fire making challenge to see who goes out, when they want to make fun of Sandra and Becky. It's like, well, hang on, are you putting her in that same bucket? Like, you're kind of mocking her because she can't she finally gets it, but it took her 5 hours. I'm with you, Kristen. I'm not too sure.
Well, I mostly think the narrative was just really confused because I do feel like they were trying to paint her as the underdog, but it didn't make any sense. I don't know.
See, I read it as more of the kind of an underdog because they all gave up, and I don't know what the music was. If anyone, Cable, you rewatched it. What was the music like at this point?
I wasn't probably paying attention to the music as much, but look, I agree. I'm still a bit on the fence. I'm a bit confused. She's had such almost like the dodo edit the whole time, and then she's done the awesome thing, done the fire when no one gave her a chance, or maybe her tribe thought she'll never do it anyway. But you're still telling us it took her 5 hours, so you kind of, it's like, again, having a fire challenge at a tribal council. It's just like you're telling us these guys need matches and they need this, and it's taken them 2-3 hours. It's like, I don't know. It's one thing showing the underdog because it was awesome and what she did for her tribe, and she never gave up. So there's that part of us as an audience. You go, I love that. I love that she didn't give up. She could have easily given up, but then you're kind of still telling it's 5 hours. She's kind of the dummy in the group or the ditzy girl. What are you trying to say? And I think it's a bit of both. I still think they're kind of ripping into her a little bit.
I just think going off on this whole narrative about fire, two of the tribes, there was a big focus on fire. There have been seasons where people have used the sun and just rubbing sticks together, and now these guys have flint and kerosene and they can't make fire. Like, how far the show has fallen in terms of that, and you saw it in Worlds Apart in the Rodney and Carolyn. I mean, they're being like hand gifted fire, and they still can't make it. It's crazy.
Well, the one thing that came up when I was looking at thinking about the fire situation is, does this play into the fact that it's the toughest season ever? Because Jeff Probst hypes up the evacuations and all that, and the tough crying and all that, and I thought that it was playing into that it's so hot they can't even make fire, and I don't know, maybe that's just how I read it. Now we're going to predict what's going to happen in the next episode. Kristen, go.
Beauty is going to go to tribal council and Nick's going to go home.
Cable, who's going home?
I think it'll be the Brains, and it'll be either Joe or Deb.
Pat?
Not wishful thinking. Somewhat different, hopefully. I think the Brains would be interesting, and maybe Joe. In the next episode, they showed how there's this the little idol hunt. I guess the big kind of dramatic scene at the end was Jason kind of taking out Alicia. In the preview,
that tackle, yeah.
It didn't even look like a tackle. I mean, I kind of looked. It sort of looked like a tackle. He ran into her. Yeah, I don't know I mean, I guess they tried to paint that as malicious, but based on some previews, he probably didn't even touch her. She just fell over. But I think that's, more idle. We haven't seen anything on the Braun. I mean, Alicia looked for about a minute this episode, so I think that'll be a little bit interesting to see what they do.
Debbie, what are your thoughts on next week? Don't give any spoilers, though.
Well, I mean, Idols, I think I agree with Patty G. Idols are coming out next week because we saw the preview with the Braun, but that doesn't even account for the fact that 2 weeks in a row we've had Ty's search for the Idol, and I'm still predicting that he brings Caleb in on it to find the Idol. Whether it works or not, I think that's what happens, that him and Caleb form an alliance, try to find an Idol, and I think it probably will be the Brains that lose this time based on the edit and what might actually be foreshadowing. I think Debbie actually does try to pull something together, and in the end, it doesn't work because Joe's too old school to go along with anybody's plan.
And one thing I'm pretty shocked about is that, Neil and Peter, it really seems like their focus has been on the game, and they haven't even mentioned idols, especially the Brains, who you'd think would be the most savvy people. I don't think there's been a single mention of an idol from anyone.
And that was Goodbye Cable, so...
Goodbye, Cable.
Goodbye, Cable.
Cable disagreed so passionately at what Pat just said that he had to check out of this whole Ozletopsy.
So I guess we're going to wrap it up with the new Ozletopsy final questions. Who is the, winner of the week? Or is that what we're going to call it, Colin? The winner of the week?
For now, until we come up with a better name.
And that person could be based on anything. Strategy, camp life, environment, entertainment. Kristen, who's your winner?
Alicia.
Pat?
I'm going to say Ty. I really think he did a lot to step up and kind of endear himself to the tribe.
Deb, what do you think? Yourself?
Yeah, Ty for character, Sydney just for those abs. I want more of that next week.
She looks so good out there compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
They're like falling apart, and she just looks perfect. It's ridiculous.
And I'll throw out my answer. I'm going to go with Kristen there and say Alicia. She's definitely stepped up a lot for me, and she's still bringing just as much entertainment, even though she's gotten better positioning.
So our winner's a tie then, basically. Alicia and Ty.
Ty.
And Sydney's abs.
Well, whatever.
Well, Rossi's the host, kind of, so he gets like an extra eighth of a point, so Alicia wins.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's
What
the way
now?
Ben hosts, so why not?
Hey, the further she goes, if she could get all the way to the end, I'd be thrilled with that.
No kidding, you would. You got money on her.
Or money in my pocket.
And who is this week's loser? The opposite of the winner. Kristen?
Jenny?
Oh.
I guess we should say outside of Jenny, because she was obviously the loser.
I don't even know. Debbie for going to jail?
Loser? What was the loser, Pat?
I think that's tough, but I'm going to say Liz. She was really painted in a positive light last week, and I mean, I don't think it was too negative the way she was portrayed this week, but definitely worse than last week and more noticeable than anyone else, besides Jenny, obviously.
Colin?
I'm going to go by the fact that there really aren't any rules to this. We're not picking the best and worst players. We're just picking who's the star and who's not the star. I'm going to probably say this guy every single week until we get any personality out of him.
Yeah.
Neil is such a dud.
Yeah.
How did this guy get cast on a television show for entertainment purposes? I'm sorry if Neil's out there listening. I mean, I'm sure there's entertainment we're going to see coming up. But at this point, just listening to this guy puts me to sleep.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like he would be this quirky guy, but he really isn't. Haven't been weird. He's just been there. He's not even a full-on game bot. I agree with you, Colin. He just really hasn't even established himself as anything.
My loser are probably going to be Nick. Who? At this point, I don't even remember what he sounds like anymore.
It's obnoxious. That's what it's like.
Colin, do you want to give a sneak preview of what could happen on the next Ozlet Topsy, if anyone's interested?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm actually going to see. I don't even know if Ben picked an official name for this, but I like Ozlet Topsy, so whether that's the official name or not, that's what we're calling it. But we mentioned last week on the Ozlet Topsy that the idea came up that fans could come on and join us for part of the show. Anybody listening, all of our fans out there, all the Rossi fans, the Kristen fans, the Patty G fans. If you listen to this show and you wanted to appear, that you could, and I guess some people don't know whether we're serious about that or not. According to Ben, we are absolutely serious. So if you are interested, we are hoping to do this as a segment called the Fan of the Week, I think it is, or something like that. And any Survivor fans out there who want to just join us for part of an Ozlet Topsy, all you have to do is get in contact with I don't know, Ben, myself, or just Survivor Oz account on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Email us, and the message will be passed on, and we'll try to schedule something with some of the listeners out there. So, Zachary Chong, you're up next week.
You know you want it, man. You know you want it.
All right, and I guess that wraps up this incredibly long, annoying episode recap. Pat, thanks for being here. You and your clock have contributed a lot tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Rossi. Really enjoyed this one.
Kristen, Dirty Mouth, thank you.
No problem.
And Colin / Debbie, thank you for being here as always.
You're welcome, and on behalf of Cable, you're welcome as well.
Oh yeah, thanks to Cable for being here in his shorter capacity. And that wraps this episode up, and we'll be seeing you on the blood versus brawn versus oil beauty trains.